Okay, so we'll get started. As always, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for attending this webinar with NWAA and Freshfield. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sharon McDonald, CEO at North West Aerospace Alliance. Just to let you know, we are still continuing to work from home as per the government guidelines. And as always, you can contact any of us by email and telephone, and even a video call should that be your preference. Next slide, please, Paul. In relation to physical events, which we're I'm sure hoping to get back to as soon as possible. So in anticipation of this, we've booked our annual conference to take place on the 23rd of September. At the Duncan Hall, as usual. Speakers to date include Gary Elliott, who's the Chief Executive at the Aerospace Technology Institute. Could everyone mute, please? Sorry. We also have Scott McClarty, who is the Senior Vice President on the Airbus programs for Spirit Aero. And of course, we'll have David Bailey. In terms of SC21CNG, in fact, next slide, please, Paul. Next slide, please, Paul. Oh, sorry, okay. That's the one. Okay, so our SC21CNG Cluster of Excellence continues to go from strength to strength, and 7 of the cluster participants have now been awarded funding amounting to 1.28 million in order to complete their competitiveness and growth programme of improvement. So a big congratulations to all of them. We do have Clive Winby from Silcoms on the call today, who's part of that ACE programme. So congratulations, Clive. Both the SC21 and NATEC programmes are continuing as normal, using virtual communications and the odd face-to-face meetings. So please contact Catherine Toon for SC21CNG or Glenn Bullen for NATEC if you'd like any information. For those of you who don't know, NWAA have been running peer-to-peer networking events for Lancashire companies, and yesterday we held our 7th session in the series. These sessions have been supported by Burnley College, AMRC Northwest and Ed Ryder from Biscuit. Next slide, please, Paul. Upcoming webinars are all on our website, but the next one will be on the 25th of February with Clive Lewis, and he'll be talking about aerospace recovery and any opportunities for the year ahead. We do have one coming up in March, I believe, Claire, with Kuna Nagel. Has that been confirmed?
It's with KPMG.
Sorry, KPMG.
Yeah, and that's on the at the end of the month. Just need to get the date. That's on the 18th of March.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. So as always, please do follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. Invite us to follow you, and we'll certainly share in your posts and like them. And of course, we need to stay in touch with our members at all times. And if you think we can do anything different or more of something, please let us know, and we're happy to try and do that for you. So thank you for listening. I'd just like to ask everyone to mute their microphones during the presentation. And I'll now hand over to Paul Tustin at Freshfield. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you. Thanks, Sharon. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Paul Tustin. I'm client director at Freshfield. My background is in the media and in PR. I worked with the Lancashire Evening Post in Preston for some time. Then I worked with the Daily Mail in Manchester, moved into PR working with the former Saatchi Group, which allowed me to go up to Sellafield, do a lot of work up there, work with the NHS, and really develop, I suppose, experience in B2B and corporate communications, which I now run for Freshfield. And one of my clients is the NWAA, who we work with closely. And so an understanding of the aerospace industry to an extent, again, allows me to move around a little bit in this landscape. We're all changing, aren't we? And it struck us when we took a step back recently at Freshfield and we looked at what really is the long-term kind of landscape and what is happening, and how we set out our own strategy as well as client strategies. And things won't change back, that's for sure. We've all adapted very well, and businesses have adapted very quickly, and they've had to, or they've sunk or swum. That there are winners and losers for various reasons. So marketing industry has also adapted very quickly and had to. And by adapting, we've had to change sometimes a strategy, and stop what we're doing, take a look at what's working and what isn't. So I'll just touch on a few things today on that kind of on that status and where we are. Some opportunities which are arising, which weren't in existence previously, and we'll deal with some Q&As. I think that's the most important part. Any questions or issues or challenges, if you like. So yeah, where are we really? No meetings or events directly. Virtual networking, I think, is here to stay in one shape or another. It may be a balance ultimately, but certainly for the moment, the people relationship, the networking, how do you bring together large groups or target large groups of audiences rather than individuals, and the longer term really, we need to consider how we adapt and think about the longer term, not just for now. Some things here which I think are important to deal with, a strategy which will work for you. Every client of ours and every challenge is different, so it needs a strategy of its own. The audience we're targeting, and how do you reach them today, and how do you engage with them? What's the message? Do you have a message for them? What one thing do you want them to take away and act on? And what's the content? Are you asking people to do something, or is it purely an awareness raising exercise? And once you've decided all of that, what channels thereby are relevant for you, and how are you going to make it consistent and memorable in all the noise, especially the increasing noise online and the increasing webinars and use of virtual media? And how you then evaluate all of that. Is it working or not? And is it working better than what you've had in transition or not? In looking at a strategy, I think it's key to look at what are we really trying to do here? What's the purpose? Why are we spending time and resource on this activity? Very often people say, yeah, let's just get out there, get my name out there, Paul, which is fine, we can do that. But why are you doing it, and what do you want to be known for? Are you trying to change perceptions? Is there an existing perception? Or are you trying to influence behavior or purchasing patterns ultimately? And in terms of changing perceptions, I think there's a lot talked about. We are perceived as this or that, or good or bad or indifferent, but very often when we conduct a proper research exercise into the audience perceptions of a product or a service, it's completely different to what they actually thought. And it strikes me, I'm quite surprised by how little research is often conducted into an industry sector, or thought or search or purchasing intent, and what people really are looking for. And research can be conducted in many ways. It can be conducted online, it can be conducted through a survey, through actually speaking to people, and sometimes a combination of all of those. And then what is really relevant? What is it? Is it a call to action? Do you want them to do one thing? Do you want them to call a number? Do you want them to sign up for something or support a campaign? And in asking people to do something, don't ask them to do too much, because they probably won't do it. So keep it very simple. But do we want them to go to the website? Do we want them to simply respond to an email? And just think really, what is it? What's the outcome that we're thinking of? We've been looking at audiences with a number of our clients and going back on the audience. Is it still the same audience as this time last year, or when they set up in business or selling this product or service? Audience and audience habits change, and how they move about on the internet or in real time has changed enormously. That the audience profiles and how they work, whether it's online, in the media, or on social media particularly, and the changing channels and nuances. Social media now, Twitter, it's said, will be almost dead this time next year. And a few years ago, it was a channel of choice for a lot of particularly consumer-facing businesses who wanted to connect with large numbers of people or groups of people. The choice now very often is a combination, but LinkedIn for business, and increasingly consumer, and Instagram very often for visual, or if you like, certain sectors which may be visual or commercial. Is it a combination of news and insights and electronic news or online? Do these all work for you, or do they not? Can you assess which one channel may work for you better than others? Or is it a combination? In our experience at the moment, it's definitely a combination of touch points, where somebody may see something online, they then check it out and maybe call the company, they receive an e-news about that product, and ultimately they start to form an opinion. So it's very rarely just one channel with one big message which does the trick on its own. A combination of channels very often is the answer. Excuse me. And look at results to date that you've got. Look at analytics. Do you need to do more research, which we're finding increasingly helpful to support what we're doing? Otherwise, it's wasted time and resource and effort. And is it supporting the business? It is the most important answer. Business objectives are changing in many instances. And does it support the business objective and the need? We're finding that search intent as part of research helps enormously. What are people searching for? What keywords? There are pieces of software you can use where, for instance, if you're launching a new product in steel, then you can search for what kind of steel, which industries for, what design, what type, what sizes, and where they're coming from. So some of this information is valuable and allows you then to shape keywords, messages which fit with your own around the intent of people when they go on in the first place. And then to form really what is relevant and tailor the program or a campaign, which again we're finding is very often the choice of our clients to run, rather than big programs across all channels all the time, to define a campaign with a purpose, run it and review it. How can we truly engage? And I hear and see an awful lot on social media about this engagement thing and getting close to the audience, but I'm not sure how many people really understand or get close to their audiences, their customers, and who they're trying to reach. We spend more and more time nowadays understanding if you like, the persona, the profiling, who are they, how old are they, how do they search for goods or services or suppliers, how do people make these decisions, and what is it based on, and how do they receive information? Is it mobile, email, virtual events, their own events, or attend others? We really need to think about how these people act, how they behave, and how they move about. Messaging is important in terms of what is it you're trying to say really to the audience, and we like 2 or 3 big messages. Any more than 3 or 4, and it won't be listened to, and it certainly won't be received as clear. And keep it simple. Make sure you thread it through all content. Don't contrive it around a product for the sake of it, because it'll switch people off. Google loves diverse content. We use a lot of now visual and video, which may complement, if it's a piece of news and an article, then a video to demonstrate if it's a product, what the product is, what it does, how it can work. It brings it to life and makes it real. I think people want the feel of real live people, products and services. And video is a great way of bringing that home. I touched on campaigning, and we're finding that as a strategy, a campaign one by one can really work, rather than throw the kitchen sink at everything. And it can very often start with a defined strategy and a plan, a defined activity and an end. And for that reason, it's also very easy to measure and to see what's working and what isn't. And I would highly recommend looking at campaigning, marketing and communications, especially today, where you can measure a lot of online and social media activity, particularly if that's the answer. Think of one big issue in an industry and a campaign. We're running one at the moment for a client of mine they deal with coatings across Europe, and we're looking at the issue of steel manufacture and the use of steel in large buildings as a way of also allowing architecture and design to express itself, but also the safety of steel and how it can be protected. Well, they would say that, wouldn't they? Because they deal with fire protection of steel. But we're running a campaign around safety and compliance of steel structures, which needs closer collaboration in the supply chains. And we're working with some industry bodies now on a campaign on various issues. But one issue is how you fire rate a building in Europe for fire protection. And that allows our client a voice on fire protection and steel and compliance. So that's one campaign which will run across various channels. We'll measure it at the end. What breakthroughs have we made? What partners? The breakthrough and the effect on business and inquiries and lead generation, ultimately. And then we'll review it and move on. Often work with industry bodies and influencers does allow us that kind of ultimately that difference, that voice, and stakeholder support is important in any campaign of that kind. And ultimately, what you want out of it, I mean, the campaign we're running is merely to get closer to steel fabricators in Europe, but by running a campaign, we'll have really an excuse and good reason to speak to them as well. And ultimately, can we fulfill what we're saying in the promise of the product or the service? You need to be very careful about what you go out with and what you are promising. The under promise and over deliver is certainly worth considering. Even in marketing, we tend to let the product or service speak for itself. And as long as it's good enough, it will. And channels, think about the channels that the audience use, the words and visuals. What is their language? Is it tabloid? Is it more of a sophisticated sort of industry or sector that you're looking at? Think about thought leadership and how you would run news or articles around the issue or campaign. Video is great, as I say, generates high online traffic. Something like 5 times the average inquiry or view online as opposed to just another piece of content. Think about visual, whether it's a graphic, photography or video, and social media driving traffic to the website in a virtuous kind of way. So you could have content on media, social media, driving traffic back to the website, and really you're then driving lots of content, interest and feedback. And then evaluating, is it working? Bring it together with Google Analytics, which is very, very useful and insightful. If you put a piece of content out first week in February, well, what were the analytics like during that first week? Did the content generate lots more followers and views, visitors? What happened on social media with it, and what was the media coverage like? Or is that subject really not worth pursuing? We follow very closely in a campaign when we're pushing out content or insights, what stimulates the audience and what doesn't. So it might tell us not to pursue that particular line of positioning, but move into something else. And consider those audience trends, because ultimately they're the people who will make or break this exercise. And listen to the audience all the time. Look at it, get access to them if you can, even speak to some of them if you can. I've run campaigns where I've literally visited dozens of potential suppliers for a client, which gave me great intelligence. Nowadays, you'll call them, ask them, what do they buy, why do they buy it, what do they look for, what do they want. And refine the content constantly in the messaging. Just think about sometimes where you start in just 1 or 2 channels, one big campaign, and refine it as you go along and review it. But one thing's for sure, yeah, don't stand still, because things are moving very quickly. And I think that's it from me at the moment. Thank you. Do we have any questions?
There's nothing on chat, Paul. So if we do have any questions, please speak up, anyone.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah,
We can, yeah.
Hi, thank you. My name's Steve Pegram. I'm actually the ex-vice president of Heller Machine Tools in the USA, and I was also corporate vice president of Hyundai Motor Group in the USA. I've just returned back to England full time.
Right.
The reason I joined or took an interest in this organization is because many years ago I sold machine tools in the northwest of England, and a lot of my customers were part of the founding members of the Northwest Aerospace Alliance. So it's interested me to sort of return to what I knew in the history and see if there were people around that I still remember and all those good things.
Right.
What you said was very interesting today. We were doing similar things in the USA, but one of my sales drivers and marketing drivers, as you will, is personal contact with customers. I had too many young sales guys that believed that they could go out and sell a product or a service by trying to connect with a customer on LinkedIn, or send him an email, or put out a Twitter, or maybe put a comment on the website. And that's not how people buy. People don't buy off companies. People buy off people. They buy off their friends. They buy off who they like. And I'm doing some consultancy work at the moment for a large international company, and that's the message that I'm bringing to them. And their sales team looked at me and said, but we use LinkedIn all the time. That's not the way to sell. Too many companies are relying on the internet, on LinkedIn, on Twitter. So my question is, how many times do you get an invitation to fill somebody's diary on a LinkedIn call? and it's crazy. And that's not the way business should behave in the future, and certainly not the way that things need to improve. You want to increase sales, you employ the best salespeople, you get a great marketing team, but somebody better not tell me that they want to contact a customer through LinkedIn or through a website or send them an email.
Yeah, I agree entirely. And part of our our findings recently as an agency is that the more you bring a business to life through its personality, and by that I mean its people, and make the people human and get them in front of the right people, the more successful you are. Our job is almost as a conduit and to bring that together to happen. But when we get, as we approach people from the word go, we spend a little time up front teasing out of them the identity of the business. What does it stand for? What are its values? What does it truly believe in here? And I do think you hear the words a lot brought to real life. Sustainability and credibility, and increasingly, I think community will be very, very important in the future. And why businesses are in business. What are they trying to achieve? And through the people, the business and its people, you'll make a difference in the marketing of that business. And I think you're absolutely spot on. Couldn't agree more. And it's hard.
I see it all the time, and it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Just before I left, this is in November last year, the so-called high-flying sales guy in the company that I was working for at the time came to me, and he was all excited because a customer had responded to a LinkedIn message. I'll tell you a story. It's quite funny, actually. There used to be, I'm assuming the company's still there. Perhaps you can tell me. There's a company in Cone called NR Automatics. I'm sure it's still there. Right. When I was a young sales guy, we didn't have cell phones in those days. I was on a phone box in Cone, and I called the guy, and a great guy called Mike Riley, I think his name was. And I said, I'm in the area, I want to pop in and see you. He says, if you pop in and see me, you can pop out straight away. He said, if you're in the area, you're coming to see me especially, and if you're not, I'm not important enough. And that's right, and that's what happens. And you know, I see salespeople and marketing people spending hours at computers generating websites, LinkedIn messages, emails, whatever they're doing. And that's not the way to sell. It really isn't.
No, it isn't. And we for that reason, we create as part of one campaign, we're running the steel safety campaign. We're creating a roundtable group so that the two experts from my client can meet personally. Well, it'll be virtually at the moment, and get to understand the other people in the industry in Europe, in the steel industry, the fire safety industry, on a one-to-one basis. And that way things start to happen. If you're just simply firing off emails and hoping to get the right response, at some point people will give out on it. It will only go so far. I mean, I think it helps to do the right thing, with the message consistently, but ultimately you've got to bring people together. And the great opportunities now with even with virtual roundtables, we create groups and campaign groups made up of industry bodies, not just our client. And you're then creating something, a bigger, higher thing, and the dynamics are much stronger. And then you can start reporting it in the media, you can start using it online. Then's the time to start generating more content and sharing what you're creating, not the other way around. Not just fire emails off and tell people you have a certain product or a service which is better than theirs. No.
If I can just interject there, Paul, to facilitate what you've just said, we have a webinar on the 25th of February with Clive Lewis, who's always very popular for our webinars, and he's going to talk about the current situation and any potential opportunities for 2021 in this industry. So we're running that on Zoom, but as part of your joining instructions, you'll also get a link that you will put into a Chrome browser. It can only work on Chrome, which will take you to something called AirMeet. And what we'll do in AirMeet is we will have various tables available. So there'll be the speaker tables, NWAA will have a table, and you can go and put yourself on a table if you want to talk to anyone who's on there. You can actually see from the screen who's on which tables. I believe you can, if you request it, ask for a one-to-one with someone and just have two chairs at a particular table. So feedback we've received from our members is that they really miss the physical events, and as I said earlier, we're hoping to get back to that as soon as possible, but we thought this was a good way to get that personal interaction going rather than being part of a big group, because some people are more than happy to put questions out there as part of a group. Some people prefer to ask their particular questions of that person on a one-to-one basis. So that will be happening at our next webinar on the 25th of February. So I do hope everyone will attend that, and hopefully, I'm not saying there won't be glitches because it's the first time we will have used it. But you know, we're all getting used to all this new technology, and hopefully we can laugh at any glitches that come along. And then hopefully there won't be any. We'll wait and see. But we have trialed it, and we're hoping that this will be a good addition to the service that we're offering for members during this time. So.
No, it sounds great, Sharon, and that's the kind of thing which will help and facilitate relationships and networking and building real relationships, which is what business is founded on. Same with the media. We speak to media every day, and one or two people now and then hide behind an email, but if I see it going on, I remind them, just pick up the phone, speak to people.
Absolutely, pick up the phone every time.
Can't beat a good phone call. I mean, as much as we can't do it in real life and real time, but real time, but not quite the same. But it's the next best thing we have, and I'm bringing people together. Yeah.
So I've just had a message from Sue. Yes, Sue, we will make the presentation available. It is being recorded, and Claire will send the presentation out to all the participants, possibly tomorrow. So
thank you.
No problem at all.
If anybody has anything else, I'm only too happy to answer it, or do email me. My details are on the end of the presentation. Happy to respond and give back whatever we can. It's good to share some of these thoughts and if you like, some findings of ours at the moment with members. We are a member ourselves, so we like to give what we can. No secrets from us. Happy to provide some advice.
That's great, Paul. Thank you. Okay, thanks to everyone for attending. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it useful.
Thank you. Stay safe, yeah?
Yes, thanks, Stephen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next time. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.